Hello and welcome back to the Rekt Capital channel, and welcome to today's video update. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Chainlink, Tezos, Stellar Lumens, and even CHZ, Chiliz, however you pronounce that cryptocurrency. We're going to be doing a more broader market update today. We're going to look at a variety of different cryptocurrencies. So let's dive right into today's video. I hope you're having a fantastic day today so far. Let's talk about Bitcoin and its recent volatile flag breakout to 10,400, roughly speaking, a resistance area that we now know quite well from yesterday's video. And we got strongly rejected from that resistance. It was pretty much an entire cancellation of the previous move. And essentially speaking, what's going on right now is that we had a breakout from the flag, a rejection from that supply zone. And now what we're seeing here is that Bitcoin has slipped back into the flag. So what it had to do was it had to retest 9,650 as a support for it to enable some trend continuation, but we didn't get that. This was a failed retest attempt. Bitcoin has slipped back into the flag, and now we might be seeing that this, what was supposed to be a support to allow for that springboard, is now actually figuring as a resistance once again, very much like it was right over here and in this period as well. So we're back to this flagging resistance figuring as a resistance. At a moment in time yesterday, it had the opportunity to be a support. It failed to do so. So now we're back to this point where if this is really a resistance and we get this daily close in this shape and form, we'll probably see rejection further down into the flag. And this wouldn't bode well for a weekly close later this week, because what we need to see for the weekly close, for it to be a bullish stance, for us just to adopt a bullish stance, we can't have a gravestone candlestick forming at a significant long-standing resistance from mid-December 2017. We just can't have a bearish reversal candlestick form like this at a significant resistance, because that is not a good sign. It just showcases that we have an exhaustion in the buy side pressure, that it can't prop price up properly anymore. And these sort of shooting star like gravestone dojis, they're really bad signs for trend continuation. In fact, they often precede a bearish reversal towards the downside. So this candle really needs to be fixed by Bitcoin, and the way to do it would be to close above this red trend line right over here, 9,800, until the end of the week. That's what it needs to do on the weekly time frame to save this semblance, to just retain any semblance of bullish momentum. 9,800, this is where Bitcoin needs to keep above it. So let's flick to the next chart and we'll see that this supply zone indeed once again rejected price extremely harshly. You can see that this upside wick, very reminiscent to this upside wick. These were some two harsh rejections, which we can see that it led to some significant downside. And over here, we're having a very similar situation. It's almost a deja vu, a copy-paste scenario from what we saw over here. So for the third time since late October 2019, we've seen a third rejection from this key resistance area, this supply zone. Essentially, this is the area where people just want to offload their Bitcoin. And it seems to be the case very much so right now. So unfortunately, that's the case at the moment. We've seen a strong rejection from a supply zone. Not too positive at the moment, but of course we need to close above the weekly, above 9,800 on the weekly, because if we actually close below 9,650, and this is the level I spoke to you guys about yesterday, that we need to have that bounce above that level. Because we haven't had that bounce from that level, we're actually having this level as a resistance, and that's not a good thing, because if we look to the past, closing below 9,650, which is this green dashed horizontal level, this has led to rejections. So closing on the weekly below this level has led to a rejection in the past. And of course, here we couldn't really close properly either. And we've seen continuation towards the downside. So there was another point in time, another data point, if we cycle back all the way, I think, to around 2018. So that goes beyond this chart. But there was also a moment in time where we had a weekly close below the green level again as well. and that also led to a rejection. So every time we've closed on a weekly below 9,650, we've seen a strong rejection towards the downside. So If Bitcoin can close above 9,800, above this red trend line over here, that's going to be fine for Bitcoin. But if we close below 9,650 on the weekly, that's probably going to be terrible for trend continuation. It's going to be very bad news for the uptrend for Bitcoin. So it's very interesting to see how this is translating into Bitcoin dominance, because if we actually see a strong move on Bitcoin, and the next strong move, if we get that weekly close below 9,650, that next strong move would probably be a bearish one. And if we get that bearish continuation, that rejection, we'll have a lot of capital flow away from altcoins and back into Bitcoin price, right? And the reason I say Bitcoin price is because we have to look at Bitcoin dominance and differentiate between Bitcoin price and Bitcoin dominance, because Bitcoin dominance at the moment is falling, which means that capital is flowing away from Bitcoin's price and into altcoins. People are adopting more of a risk-seeking approach, wanting to play these smaller altcoins just to make a bit more Bitcoin in the process, while Bitcoin's price actually declines as capital flows away from it into altcoins. So at the moment, altcoins are indeed gaining a bit more traction. Capital is flowing into altcoins at the moment, and at the moment we can also see that Bitcoin dominance is following through on this blue trajectory, which I plotted a few days ago and shared on my Twitter. It is following through quite nicely. This is the 200 daily exponential moving average, so I was just waiting for a breakdown from here for us to just see continuation all the way back to this level right over here, this trend line, because this is going to be the trend line for me personally to fully de-risk from altcoins, because that's probably when we're going to see a moment in time where Bitcoin dominance trends up again. And if Bitcoin dominance is going to increase back to this red level, that means that we're going to see capital flow into Bitcoin and away from altcoins. So I wouldn't want to be in altcoins at that point in time. And like I said, if we see a strong rejection from here, from 9,650, then it's most likely going to align with a return to around here. I wouldn't want to be in altcoins at that time. So saying that, we have a limited window at the moment, in the short term at least. We have a limited window for many altcoins doing quite well until we see that rebound. So before we see the rebound, altcoins could still continue to do well. But as I'll show in my market update as we go along, in the other altcoins, we'll notice that a lot of altcoins are actually reaching very key resistance levels, which actually ties in with the fact that some of these altcoin rallies may be exhausted, tying in with this Bitcoin dominance principle right over here. But first, let's look at Ethereum. I spoke about how Ethereum is still in its uptrend, and it very much is still the case, because Ethereum has Ethereum 2.0 coming up in July, so it is going to be a little bit more immune to whatever's going on in the market. But of course, it is going to be susceptible to volatility from Bitcoin, which is why we see a wick like this on Ethereum's price action after Bitcoin's rejection. So Ethereum is still holding strong on a macro sense, because it is still maintaining 230 as a support on the weekly, and as long as it keeps this level on the weekly, then it's all well and good, and this uptrend is still very much intact all the way up to this black diagonal resistance right over here. And arguably you could even say that this was that contact, right? Because essentially we could argue that there was a front running of this resistance and people just stacking sell side orders a little bit lower than this historical resistance. That's also possible. So in any case, as long as Ethereum is holding this level, then the uptrend will continue going forward. We might see a bit of consolidation going forward as well, but in any case, as long as this level continues to hold, it's still okay when it comes to this Ethereum uptrend. So let's move on to Ethereum's BTC counterpart, Ethereum BTC on the weekly. This is actually going to be an old chart from my private journal, and of course you can DM me for exclusive access to that journal. On the 13th of May, I spoke about how Ethereum BTC rebounded from a key demand level right over here on the weekly time frame, and as long as it held there, we'd probably see a rebound all the way past this red supply zone and all the way to form a lower high. And this is essentially what I mentioned in the description, that following from the bounce we could see a second lower high form, but of course for that to happen we first need to see a bounce from the blue level and then past the red supply zone. So that second lower high indeed did form. So you can actually see that this was indeed a double bottom like formation and a higher low in the process. And of course, we got that lower high in the end. So that was a 20% rally from that point in time, from mid-May. So a fantastic rally that I mentioned in my private journal, and the lower high at the moment is still very much significant, and Ethereum BTC is actually trying to test this level as a new support. And if it does that, that would be actually very interesting, because we could see a rally all the way to this level over here. So that would be an extra 5% to this point right over here, 0.025. This would be the next resistance, and this is actually the resistance of the double bottom. So at the moment, this triangle over here is the predominant market structure for Ethereum BTC. But if it actually breaks out from this triangle, then the double bottom will take precedence in terms of the technical analysis. And we'd reach this resistance right over here, and breaching this resistance would actually activate this double bottom structure, which would be absolutely bullish for Ethereum BTC. But until it breaks past this black diagonal, I don't expect to reach this level. So we have to see a retest over here. First and foremost, that's the most important thing for Ethereum BTC right now. And if it can do that, we'll see a return to this level, which it has to breach as well. And if it breaches that, then we can actually be very bullish on Ethereum BTC after breaking this level. So let's move on to Litecoin USD. Litecoin USD is forming this triangular market structure right over here below a key weekly resistance of 48.80 cents. So $48.80. And what I want to see is a breakout from this triangle, of course, but I'd like it to also close on the weekly above 48.80 cents. So if it does that, I'll probably see Litecoin doing something like this. So it would follow through on this blue trajectory. It would close above $48.80 on the weekly right here, pull back into this orange level to test it as a support, and then rally towards the next key level before potentially even rejecting from there. But as long as this orange level continues to hold as a support in the future, that's going to be all well and good. Ultimately, my final target would be this diagonal resistance over here, a diagonal resistance that's been plaguing Litecoin USD for many months right now. So that's a trade that I'm going to be watching for Litecoin USD in the short term. So I'm just watching for this triangle breakout and how it respects this orange level on the weekly time frame. If we get a close above it, that's going to be fantastic. And if we get a pullback into that level, that would be also great, just to follow through on this blue trajectory. Moving on to Stellar Lumens, this was also a coin that I covered in my private journal. This was essentially a daily pennant below a black diagonal resistance, a long-standing black diagonal resistance. This is essentially the daily pennant that I'm talking to you guys about on the weekly time frame. So it looks much better on the daily time frame, of course. But here is the chart that I covered earlier on this month, and I just wanted XLM to retest this black diagonal as a new support so as to rebound into new highs all the way back to this level over here, this confluent resistance area. And of course we got that breakout. Of course we even got the retest on a few occasions of this black diagonal as a new support. So we've rebounded to this confluent resistance area, potentially even front run, which is fine by me as well. But in any case, that was another coin that I covered in my private journal as well. And what we can see here is that we are at a very key resistance right over here. Like I mentioned earlier on in the video, that we are approaching a very key resistance here for XLM and many different altcoins as well. Every time we reach this resistance by XLM on the weekly, we actually rejected into a strong downtrend. So I don't think we'd see a very strong downtrend upon rejection from this area again, but it is likely that we could see some sort of rejection going forward, because of course breaking past this level would be very bullish for XLM, but I don't think we're quite there yet. We'll probably have to see a rejection first in the short term anyway. But in any case, here are a few more plays from my private journal when it comes to Tezos USD. This is essentially the blue diagonal that was plaguing Tezos for a while, and I just wanted to see this diagonal break because that was essentially something that I was going to be watching for a breakout play in. And the positive side to this is that we got that breakout in the end, and what I was watching for next was for a retest attempt of this blue diagonal. And in the meantime, when it comes to Link and Tezos are very aligned. They're very correlated together. So I like to play Tezos and Link at the same time because Tezos actually is a good predictor of Chainlink's price action. So what I was looking for during this retest for Tezos is I was actually looking for a breakout for Chainlink. And as you can see from the description, if Tezos actually retested successfully that pattern that Tezos broke out from, if it did that retest successfully, then I'd look for a breakout in Chainlink because Chainlink would probably follow Tezos in that movement. And thankfully, that's exactly what happened. You can actually see from Tezos, we got that successful retest of the blue diagonal and a rebound of 6% towards the target levels right over here. We actually got the rebound a little bit further. We got that all the way to 7% at this level, but also to 10%. So we even got more than we bargained for on this recent successful retest attempt. But what also happened to Link is that we got that breakout in Link's price action as well. We also got that retest attempt in Link's price action, and we rallied 10% to the red level of $4.47. So fantastic to see this sort of movement. What I want to see from Link going forward though is we are at a very key resistance on the weekly time frame. So you can see that Lumens, you can see that Ethereum BTC is also struggling with a resistance, also Litecoin USD. But Link USD right now is also struggling with a key resistance, and if it breaks past it, if it manages to weekly close above $4.47, we'll probably see an easy return to $4.86. So that would be an extra 10% towards the upside for Link's current uptrend. But until it does that, this is a very precarious situation to just go long on Link. You have to have that confirmation first. But in the meantime, it was a great breakout so far for Link from its triangle. If it manages to weekly close above $4.47 on the weekly, that's a fantastic level to start thinking about. Could we see a pullback into that level just to test it as a support before moving onwards for that extra 10% to $4.86? That's something I'm going to be watching for going forward. But the last coin that I'd like to talk to you guys about today is Chiliz, or at least CHZ. I'm not really sure how you pronounce this altcoin, but in any case, it has a fantastic macro perspective, a fantastic macro setup. This is another coin that I covered in my private journal, and you can DM me for exclusive access on Twitter. This is essentially a triangular structure right over here, and what I was looking for is for this price action just to test this green level as a new support, because if it did that, then we'd probably see continuation within this macro structure. And indeed, that's essentially what happened, because ever since then, you can actually see this retest attempt right over here, and this level was actually confluent with the 200 daily exponential moving average. So great confluence in support. Of course, it wasn't a smooth ride by any means. This is a coin that I was simply patient with because I understand that from here all the way to here, that's all I'm interested in. And at the moment, we are still seeing that movement. It is going to be a bumpy ride for sure on the way up, but I am just being patient with it. And patience does pay. 27% to the upside ever since just testing that green level as support, that confluent support level, and ever since we've seen that springboard towards higher price levels. And the best thing about this uptrend is that we've claimed a key level, which is essentially the midpoint of this triangular market structure. We've claimed this level as a support, and we'll probably see further upside, and finally just revisiting the top of this macro market structure. That's something I'm going to be watching for when it comes to CHZ. But in the meantime, that's about it for today's market review. I hope you enjoyed that. We covered many different coins. We covered the majors, and we've also covered a few top performing altcoins, as well as a smaller altcoin in the form of CHZ. I hope you've enjoyed this market review, and of course feel free to leave a like if you liked the episode, and of course subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak soon.